What's going on, everyone? The Golden State Warriors have a real decision on their hands when it comes to Draymond Green. He has been part of the Big Three dynasty with the Warriors since the beginning, and he is arguably their most important piece. Steph is their best player. Steph is the engine that kind of gets everything going, but Draymond is the glue for this team. And stats and money and all that stuff don't paint enough of a picture for what Draymond means to the Golden State Warriors. And that's why all of the teammates and stuff are coming to his defense saying, hey, you need to pay this guy. We need him here. He is so valuable to this team. And I do think on the Golden State Warriors, he is a max guy. I think every other team in the league, he isn't. Because what he provides the Warriors is something completely different than he would provide for any other team. And he's sort of a product of the environment and of the system, but in a positive way. You know, there are those players where you're like, oh, he's part of the system, but if he went elsewhere, he would be terrible. I don't think Draymond's that guy. I think he'd still be very good in any team he's on, but I think he's just elevated that much higher because of the role he plays in the overall system with the Warriors. And Draymond, he wants a max. He wants his money. He wants the bag. Back up the Brinks truck. Let's do this. But the Warriors are a little hesitant, which is understandable. At some point, the Warriors are really going to have to make some decisions with all these guys. Andrew Wiggins, Jordan Poole. You're eventually going to have to pay Kuminga and Moses Moody and, James Wiseman. And, you already have Steph and Clay on max deals. Are you going to have 10 guys on max contracts? No. You're going to end up having to make tough decisions that you don't want to make for now as well as the future. And Draymond may end up being the odd man out. Which is crazy to think about. But where would Draymond go? Well, the Detroit Pistons is one place that is being rumored to heavily want him and would be willing to sign him, trade for him, and even acquire him by any means necessary. Even Woj came out with a statement talking about Detroit Pistons being a destination for Draymond Green. Now, not saying that this happens, but it would make a lot of sense, right? He gets to go back home, Michigan guy. And he's a guy that could come in and really help that young team. He could kind of be that glue. He could be the enforcer. He could be the voice in the locker room and really be that veteran presence for a very young team. He could come in, slot right in, be a starter. Detroit would essentially be paying not so much for just Draymond the player, but what he brings to the table besides his stats. Because Draymond's not going to be a guy that's going to come in. He's not going to go to a different team and all of a sudden average 20 to 30 points a game. He's not that guy, especially at this point in his career. He's 32 years old. He's not that dude. He's never really been that 30-point-a-game guy. But he's a guy that can do a little bit of everything, can be that sort of point forward for you, can rebound, pass, score, and more importantly, be a guy that can really help a young team, which Detroit is going to need. Detroit has a lot of talent. They have a lot of promise for now and the future. You got Jaden Ivey, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren was another guy that they ended up picking up. You got Sadiq Bey, who had like a 50-point game or something like that. Isaiah Stewart is another guy that comes to mind. They have enough talent on this team, young talent, to be very good in a couple years. And a guy like Draymond who can come in and be that muscle, be that enforcer, be that, veteran presence, that locker room guy to really help keep these young guys in line would probably be worth the max for Detroit. They're also in a very nice position to where all of their young guys aren't going to cost a lot of money anytime soon. So they could give a guy like Draymond Green the max and not worry about okay, how are we going to pay these other guys? They would still be in a very good position because everybody's on rookie contracts still, or at least all their main core guys. Draymond could easily slot in, be your starter, be your voice. So I don't think it's a bad deal at all, whether Detroit signs him outright or they, work out some sort of deal, maybe a sign and trade. Now, there was a proposed trade that I saw that was for Draymond Green going to the Detroit Pistons that I wanted to share with you and kind of get your opinions, get your perspective. Because if the Warriors are going to let Draymond Green go, you might as well get something back for him. The problem is his age and just the amount of money and stuff like that he wants. You're not going to get anything of crazy high value, right? Teams aren't going to give you a star or anything along those lines. So you're probably looking at a potential like guy that could be a gem that you could plug into your system and maybe be that bright star later on down the line, because your system is so intact, your culture is so intact, you can turn, average guys into mid-tier guys. That's probably what you're getting for Draymond. You're trying to get some, hopefully, young talent, some guys that can, be contributors and maybe have some upside. That would be the best case scenario if you were to trade for Draymond Green. So in this proposed trade, there was Draymond Green going to the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, makes sense. And then the Golden State Warriors would be getting back Marvin Bagley, Killian Hayes, and there was a second round pick attached to this as well. So basically, like here's a second round pick, Marvin Bagley, and then Killian Hayes. Now, for the Warriors' perspective, this isn't a bad deal. I mean, Marvin Bagley is a guy that is still very young, 23 years old, 6'11" height, can play power forward. He's got a 7'1" wingspan. He was the number 2 pick in the draft. So he's a guy that could really, be a solid contributor and be a guy you could have on this team for quite some time. He's not a guy that you just have for the moment and now it's gone and you're just kind of swapping. And then Killian Hayes, he's 21 years old. He was the number 7 pick in the 2020 draft. He's got a little upside, 6'5" guard that could potentially be something, but he's a little irrelevant given the Detroit Pistons team that they have, especially with Cade Cunningham, and now they got Jaden Ivey. Like, where is his fit? So I think Killian Hayes, you're not really losing much there. Marvin Bagley, I think you can make the argument, is kind of tough, but if you're getting Draymond Green, you're getting him to start. And you're going to have Jalen Duren. You might still have Kelly Olynyk. They also have I don't remember if they still have Nerlens Noel or not, but he's another guy if they still have him. He's a guy that can do that. Isaiah Stewart, he's another guy that can come in and sort of play that center role for them. He played center for them on several occasions. But nonetheless, Draymond Green, I think, would be huge for the Detroit Pistons because, again, he's a guy that offers more than just what the stats show. He's a guy that come in, could be immediately the voice and the veteran in the locker room that could really help all of these young guys. They have a ton of young talent that could be very good and very beneficial going forward. They could be the team that you have around for the next 5 to 7 years. But we've seen the value in going and getting guys like Draymond. The Warriors did it with a guy like Andre Iguodala. The Miami Heat have paid Udonis Haslem for, years to just be on the roster. He's not even, he would have retired 10 years ago, but they still want him on the roster because he could be that voice in the locker room, that veteran presence, the guy that is, the outspoken leader. That's what Draymond could be for this team, and I think that is really huge. If you're the Warriors, again, you're getting a guy like Marvin Bagley, who's young enough not only for now but the future. I mean, you could have a front court of Marvin Bagley and James Wiseman for the next 10 plus years. That's a pretty good position to be in. If Kuminga comes into his own, you have Kuminga, right? Jordan Poole comes into his own, you have Jordan Poole. So I mean, literally, you could have 4 of your future 5, or even Moses Moody, right? Like once this Warriors current addition is all said and done, you could have a starting 5 of Moses, Poole, Kuminga, Wiseman, and Bagley. That's a pretty good position to be in. Or, Killian Hayes. If Killian Hayes can kind of get back to being the prospect that he was, maybe he could be a solid contributor, and you kind of have him. The point is that the Warriors get young talent that'll be cheap for now and the future, and kind of start putting themselves in a position not only for the next 2-3 years, but for the foreseeable future. Because Draymond, he's only getting older. Like I said, he's already 32. He's by the time he signs a new contract and that contract's up, he's probably 36. Best case scenario, 35. And it's like, at some point the Warriors are really gonna have to start cutting the cords on players that many people don't want. I mean, they're already paying $1 billion a year in luxury tax, and you have Draymond, Clay, Steph, Wiggins, Poole, Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman, all these guys on max deals eventually. You're going to be getting killed As much as the Warriors don't care about spending the money in order to keep this dynasty rolling, at some point you got to start cutting back. And the beauty of Steph and Clay, they are such good shooters. They could probably play for another 5 to 7 years, even with their age, because they're such great shooters. I mean, look at Ray Allen. He was able to play for, longer than he should have otherwise if he was just a normal player. But the fact that, he was such a great shooter, he still had value and was still winning championships with the Miami Heat. That is huge. That is something that Steph and Clay could have. So even with, Steph's age, because Steph is 34 now? So even in 4 years, he is such a great shooter. You could still have him on the team with your young guys. Same thing with Clay. Clay is 32, and if he can hold up, just health-wise and not fall apart, he's, again, such a great shooter. He could be your Ray Allen. So you could have these guys to where even in their later years, they could be guys that could start in a pinch or be guys that eventually move to the bench. I think Steph is just so good. I think his game is going to age incredibly, even when he is 38 years old. I do. I just think he's just such a talented shooter. But if he becomes a defensive liability more than he already has been his whole career, stuff like that, I don't know. You could see that. But Clay could definitely be a guy, especially if he's willing to buy into that. Say Clay's I'm 36, 37, 38. I understand I'm not a starter anymore in this league, but I'm not ready to give up the game of basketball yet. I'm willing to come off the bench and just be your go-to shooter, your Ray Allen, your guy that, when Steph comes out the game or Jordan Poole comes out the game, I'm in there and you're not losing that three-point shooting. I can definitely see that happening. But Draymond, problem is that as he gets older, his game is going to start phasing out more than it already has. And that's a big concern as well. But anyway, those are my thoughts and opinions. And as always, I pass the question on to you. Let me know yours down in the comment section below. What do you think about trading for Draymond Green if you're the Detroit Pistons? Do you think, that makes a ton of sense? Again, he's a guy that could be a veteran presence, a guy in the locker room, a voice, kind of keep these young guys in check. Draymond Green gets his money. It's a win-win for both sides there. The Warriors, they end up, getting back some young assets that can help now and in the future that could really kind of keep this dynasty and this team together and the ball kind of rolling. I think that could be huge for the Warriors, especially in the Warriors system. I'm sure that they would turn Killian Hayes and Marvin Bagley into some solid players and some solid contributors and really just grow them the way that they need to be grown. So that could be huge for them. And you're getting some young talent. You're getting some young pieces. Worst case scenario, you're getting those young pieces to move to another team that maybe maybe you can get a star. Maybe you can kind of piece some things together later on. Maybe a young guy that's a star, that's an up and coming or eventually becomes a star now. In 5 years ends up wanting out of their team, and you have Marvin Bagley, Killian Hayes, Moses Moody, Kuminga, all these guys that are coming into their own that you can kind of unload to go get maybe another superstar or something. You never know what the future holds. You never know what's down the line. But is this something that you'd be on board with? Is this something you're not? Do you think the Warriors should just keep Draymond regardless, no matter what? He's a guy you keep around. He's too valuable to the team. However you feel about it, love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.